This week on Art on the Air features Chicago artist Diana Leviton Gondek discussing her own art journey. Next, we have Art for Theater discussing their online-only production of the 1998 Tony Award-winning musical Ragtime running through May 2nd. Our spotlight is with Trent Albert discussing Chesterton-Porter Rotary Club's photo contest, with entries being accepted through June 30th.
Express yourself through art and show the world your heart. Express yourself through art and show the world your heart. You're in the know with Esther and Larry. Art on the air today. Stay in the know with Larry and Esther. Art on the air our way. Express yourself through art and show the world your heart. Express yourself through art and show the world your heart.
Welcome. You're listening to Art on the Air on WVLP 103.1 FM and Lakeshore Public Radio 89.1 FM, our weekly program covering arts and arts events throughout Northwest Indiana and beyond. I'm Larry Breckner of New Perspectives Photography, right alongside here with Esther Golden of The Nest in Michigan City.
Aloha, everyone.
We're your hosts for Art on the Air. Art on the Air is supported by an Indiana Arts Commission Arts Project grant through South Shore Arts and the National Endowment for the Arts. Art on the Air streams live at WVLP.org and is rebroadcast on Monday at 5 p.m., plus is also heard on Lakeshore Public Radio 89.1 FM every Sunday at 7 p.m., also streaming live at lakeshorepublicradio.org, and is available on Lakeshore Public Radio's website as a podcast. Our spotlight interviews are also heard Wednesdays on Lakeshore Public Radio. Information about Art on the Air is available at our website, breck.com/AOTA. That's Breck, BRECH.com/AOTA. That includes a complete show archive, spotlight interviews, plus our show is available on multiple podcast platforms, including NPR One. Please like us on Facebook, Art on the Air, WVLP, for information about upcoming shows and interviews. And we'd like to welcome to Art on the Air Spotlight Trent Albert of albertphotographic.com in Chesterton. But he's here to talk about something else, a great photo contest. I'm going to let him talk about that with the local Rotary Club. So, Trent, welcome to Art on the Air Spotlight.
Welcome.
Thanks. It's great to be here.
So tell us a little bit about what's coming up with Chesterton-Porter Rotary and what they have going on. And, of course, you're involved, I guess, coordinating this.
Well, our Chesterton-Porter Rotary Club has struggled this past year with our fundraising efforts. We have not been able to have our annual fish fry, which has always been one of our biggest fundraisers that we have. And it's also a really big community event. So we've struggled with an idea how we can come around and raise some funds and cheer up our community and our world, to be honest with you. So we came up with a photography contest with a 2020 vision theme, kind of looking back and reflecting and projecting forward. And hopefully we can get some photographic images that tell the story that people have gone through over the past 12 to 14 months that we've gone through this. The idea was that we will have a $25 entry fee, and that entry fee will go towards supporting our prizes. That we have three prizes: a $500 prize, a $250 prize, and a $100 prize. And we'll have up to 10 honorable mentions, and more than likely more than that. The idea is that we want to get a number of people to join this and be a part of our photo contest, so that we can make a publication and possibly a calendar, and more than likely a full magazine publication that we'll be able to support with the entrants that supported our contest. And hopefully that will be a celebration of the last year's events and looking forward to what we see. As you know, we don't know what we're going to get at this point. We're kind of looking forward to the surprise element of it.
So is it limited to anyone, amateur, professional, or anyone can submit?
Anyone can submit. We're looking forward to seeing people's pictures from their phones. We're looking forward to seeing about any photograph that you have. Our judges are 4 judges that we've drawn from our Rotary group. And they are not by any means professional photographers. They're going to be judging on photographic appeal to them. And what we're looking for is just fun and not something that moves you to an emotion or to a better place than where we have been in the last 12 months. So those judges will team together and pick a group of 20 images that they enjoy. And we're hoping that we can have 3 of those images cross-pollinate between all 4 of those judges, and that will help us decide our first, second, and third and our honorable mentions. trying to work with a group to make this all come together is what Chesterton-Porter Rotary is all about. So we've got many hands and many eyes putting the word out and getting the word across to other possible photographers and photo entrants.
So you're looking for, I think you've probably you've been with Duneland Photography Club and such as that, but you're looking for anyone to do that. Give us the website where they can enter just right now, and we'll hit that once more at the end.
It goes right through our Chesterton-Porter Rotary Club's website, which is at Chesterton-PorterRotary.org. And if you want to enter the photo contest, you just put a /photo at the end of the .org, and you'll get right into our photo contest right there. It's open right now, and it will be open through June 30th. The idea is that, well, as we get entrants, we'll be able to share entrants with people online to get them more exposure, but also excitement to other people to enter the photography contest as well.
Larry, are you submitting?
I think I will. Yeah. I've known Trent, and I had him actually jury a show that I did at Southern Shore. So, yeah, I probably will. But let me ask you, thematically, you are looking for things concentrated in 2020, like on the COVID, or just maybe some guidance for photographers to know what to submit?
It's open. And it is up to you on how did you get through the 2020 and your experiences moving forward. And it's not really to stress, the mask issue or the COVID response or anything like that. We're thrilled to see what people have to offer and what their interpretation of what these last 12 months have meant to them. It's not like a mob appeal, but we'd like to see what the mob has to say about what's been going on in the last 12 months without having a whole lot of direction. I think that if we give too much direction, then people say, oh, I don't have a picture like that and I can't enter. And I think that we wanted to keep it wide open so that we're going to get pictures of cats. We're going to get pictures of flowers. We're going to get those things. And that's okay, because the end of the story is we're taking a $25 entry fee, which is going to work out to be a donation in a big way to support our Chesterton-Porter Rotary Club's philanthropic efforts throughout the community.
And can they donate or make the entry fee online through a PayPal or anything like that?
Yeah, it's basically once you get onto the Chesterton-PorterRotary.org /photo, it'll prompt you to fill out a little credit card payment. And that $25, of that $25, our club will keep $23.93 or something like that. And that's what we are going to use to support the prizes and to support the giving of our club.
Okay, well, thank you so much for coming in Art in the Air Spotlight. It's Trent Albert of Albert Photographic talking about the Chesterton-Porter Rotary photo contest. And you can find that online at Chesterton-PorterRotary.org /photo. Thank you much for coming on, Trent.
Best of luck.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate your time. You have a good day.
You're listening to Art on the Air, WVLP 103.1 FM, and on Lakeshore Public Radio 89.1 FM. And we'd like to welcome to Art in the Air. She looks at observations of human nature throughout her work, whether it be painting, sculptures, statues, a whole wide range of things that she does. She does have a studio as an artist in residence at Zobie Art Center in Chicago, and also a home studio. Diana Leviton Gondek, welcome to Art on the Air.
Thank you so much for having me, Larry and Esther. Really excited about talking to you both. And without a mask on, this is strange.
That's true. Yeah, we're past the mask stage. Well, in Indiana, they haven't mandated it. Anyway, we'd like to hear about your personal journey and story, kind of like how you got from where you were to where you are, like where you grew up, where all that kind of background material and everything like that. So tell us your story.
Okay. I grew up in Evanston, Illinois, which was... it was like in the 60s, 70s, and it was incredible back then. It was a wonderful, diverse schooling full of art. And we had theater in grade school. We had theater, music, and art. And it's just, we were all influenced by that greatly. And wonderful high school, wonderful experiences. I had a very happy childhood. And it's another thing was being in Evanston, you're so close to Chicago that you were able to go into the city so easily and have the top museums and theater. And it was all there, music and plays. It was just, everything was there for you. So this all greatly influenced me. And so when I went to college, I knew I wanted to major in art. And I went to Northern Illinois University, majoring in fine art, emphasized watercolor back then. I just adored watercolor. And out of college, I ended up being art director at Northwestern University. And I did that for several years, and through marriage and my birth of first child, Max, but decided I don't think I could be a superwoman. So I took some time off to raise the kids. And but even the time when I was raising the kids, I did freelance. And I also worked in the school district out here, 203, doing art awareness with for about 6 years. So just kept my finger in there and just learning socially how to talk to people. If you can talk to a child, keep them entertained, you can pretty much talk to anyone. So and then when the kids started getting a little bit older, I decided to go back to my fine art. And I started exploring oil, which I did obviously work with, and acrylics, but I really got into it. And I had done a piece, and it was basically a self-portrait. And I had gone on Facebook, and I'd seen this place called Joby Art Center, and I've seen people who were involved in there. And there was Sergio Gomez who was having a portrait show. And I thought, let me just try it, see what happens. And I got in. So that was kind of my start with the Joby Art Center and my connections there. And I was at another gallery there for a little bit before deciding to get my own studio. And so I've been there with my own studio for about, and been with Joby for about probably 10 years now.
Oh, so, wow.
Yeah,
that's wonderful, because the community of artists there are so fantastic. That must be inspiring in itself.
Oh, it's just so wonderful. Wonderful people, great friends, I miss them all so much being, during COVID. It's so difficult. And unfortunately, some artists, we've all suffered so much, especially in the arts, through this pandemic. They've lost studios or decided, it's not the right time to have one. So that's been very, very hard on us. But, we're all, still making our artwork and trying to get in shows. I've been showing through this pandemic. I've been in, 4 shows in Chicago, one in Miami during Art Miami Week still, because I'd done Art Basel for 3 years before that. And then I was just in the Hamptons for a show, which was a virtual show. But these are hard. It's, it's different when people are seeing this on their little phone, seeing your artwork. So, sales are not exactly what they used to be. So it's been a little difficult, and just kind of holding on and just keeping my artwork out there and just marketing myself as much as possible.
Have you had commissions during this time?
I haven't had, like the past year, I haven't had any commissions. I did have my last major commission was with Special Olympics, and there with them, I did a portrait for a portrait for their 50th anniversary. And that entailed the original founders of Special Olympics and those now involved. And that's now in DC in Tim Shriver's office. So that was my last big one. But there's been some other ones. Actually, there was, I think, a couple other ones. I've had some collectors who've had me do some artwork for their homes. So that's actually, that wasn't the last one. But during the pandemic, I haven't had a commission yet. No.
So I'm so interested in your technique, because it's quite unique how you blend realism with, I don't want to quite say surrealism, but on otherworldliness, I guess. And especially, I love so many of them, but Family Wall is just so beautiful and intriguing. So how do you approach that? I mean,
yeah, thank you. Growing up, as I said, in the 60s, I adored pop art. I thought that was it was just, wow, this, as a child, there's nothing to understand except the visual. I just adored it. And then from there, you find the Renaissance, and you find, Impressionism and everything, and Surrealism and all that. And I think I just kind of I combined it all, not meaning to, I just did. And interesting with Family Wall is that piece is actually, I do political work, but it's so subtle, no one knows it. And that piece is at a time when a wall was trying to be built to separate us. And I used a family because that family is what a wall should be. It shouldn't be breaking. It should be us together. And the only colors I used were the colors of the flag of Mexico and the flag of the colors of the flag of the United States. And that's the only colors. So that was my choice in colors for that one too, which is because the unique colors were used in that.
Yeah, it's so compelling because you have, a very clear indication of who the people are, but then their garb is just, it creates such a dynamic painting. I just
Thank you.
Stop looking at that. And then on the flip side, I'm like the New York Study and Kong and Tower, Neverland and False Prophet. So this seems to be quite, there's a similarity between everything, but then this seems to be a whole different series of technique.
Right. What happened? Yeah, I think was I in New York first or London? I think I was in London first showing, and I was taking pictures in London, and I really enjoyed the pictures I was taking. I wanted to use those in my artwork, and I decided I want to incorporate the actual photography this time instead of just painting in oil. So that's where that came from, was to use the photography that I had taken in New York and showing in New York and showing in London, and combining that mixed media with oils and whatever's in my studio, just kind of figuring things out and having fun with it. So that's where that came from.
Yeah,
so I'm still enjoying
they're exciting.
that.
They're very exciting.
Yeah. I sent those to, that was last summer, I think I'd shown those actually at Art Basel when that was still open, and that was widely accepted, and which was thrilling to me because it was a whole different genre for me. And I actually ended up selling one piece called Chicago. What was the name of that one? It was about Chicago and ancestry, and it actually was called Ancestry, and it was basically a skyline of Chicago. Another picture I'd taken, and down below I had put in pieces of my history of my grandfather in Cincinnati, where he had a fur shop, and that's in there. And then my other grandfather, my other side, with their department store, Gordon's in Gary, Indiana. So that's all incorporated inside it, because that was who I was coming from, and now I'm Chicago. So that comes into Chicago, and that went to a wonderful family in Miami. So that I was thrilled with that. And in fact, it was the family of the owners, managers of a manager of the Miami Heat. And well, everybody else was going to these giant parties in Miami for the night. It was like, oh, Diana, you have to come to this great party. It's going to be loud and crazy. I was offered to go to a Miami Heat game to sit in the front. I go, I'm taking the Miami Heat game.
Yeah.
And plus I got to eat, because when I go to Miami, I tend to put my money into where I'm staying in my flight, and I don't eat a lot. So I'm like, I can eat food. It was great. But that was a thrill, and I'm still in contact with the people who bought that piece, and that's just wonderful when you have these connections with people.
It's such an intimate thing. I mean, it's your thoughts and feelings and your soul going into these paintings, that when somebody reacts to it, it's wonderful that relationship can be maintained.
Yeah, it was my birthday a couple of years ago, and I was at the Russian Tea Room in Chicago. We just got on the Art Institute, my husband and I, and there were some ladies, and I just thought they were just wonderful. They're just what they were how they look. They were separate, but I asked them if I could take their picture, and I explained that I'm an artist. I'm legitimate. Here's my card, and could I incorporate this into some artwork? And one of the women, they both said yes. And one of the women had stayed in contact with me, and she ended up coming to my studio and buying the piece. So that was that. And I had she had moved to Florida, and I was showing it at Art Basel, and I said, you should come to my show. But she was in Chicago at the time and was unable to. But again, it's just these relationships.
That's a sweet story. Yeah.
I love it when, these people, and when you do a commission piece. I did the Grand Canyon, and it was like just getting his memory, what he had remembered, and trying to put that in there. And then at the end, after all this, working together with him, and he just said, "I love it." I just was like, I was in tears because we just worked so hard as a team on this. So that was a great feeling too. These are wonderful moments in the art world. There were so many scary, awful ones, being an artist, but you come back to the wonderful ones. Keep us happy.
Diane, I'd like to ask you, and you touched a little bit on this, is how COVID has impacted you, first of all, in terms of your art, but then also personally.
Yes. Well, I think my art is almost personally, it's just like, art is so much a part of me. And this is just it's like somebody just like shutting you out of this world. And it's been very, very sad. And seeing friends going through things too, that's been heartbreaking, and not be able to go to theater, and which I adore doing with my daughter, Bridget. And we're not able to do that in Chicago right now. So, personally, I'm somewhat of an enigma where instead of gaining weight, I've been kind of taking care of myself. So I'm actually in better shape now than I was before. So that's kind of fun as a personal note. But in terms of artwork, I think I'm almost doing more marketing at this point than I think it used to be 50-50, but I'm pushing my marketing more than my artwork out there. Just trying to get the name out there because I don't have the shows. They're just not there. And I don't have the openings. The Joby Art Center had openings every third Friday. And obviously, because of COVID, we had to stop that. And that was such a wonderful thing where you just go through the building, like about 70 artists. And you can see this all in one night and just go walk through with all the artwork. And, just made some wonderful connections through that alone. So this is missing. And
it's true. I got to live that vicariously through Brabant, Brabant Lenting.
Oh, yes.
He's a dear, 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 dear friend of mine. And so
really?
He hosted all the time, so I always felt like I was there because he was I know he was an active part of going to those Thursdays.
He actually, I have several connections to Indiana, and actually Brabant was one of my guest artists in my first studio where I had guest artists, and that was just, how lucky was I to have him? He's just, and to be friends with him. It's an honor. He's just a wonderful human being.
Completely.
Yes. In fact, I had a solo show in Indiana in Hammond at White Ripple, and that was in 15.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So that was really fun too.
My wife had a studio there also for a while.
Oh really?
Mostly for making her gift cards and other things that she did, but yeah, she had a studio there for a while.
Oh wow! I wonder if you went to my solo show.
Probably.
Awesome.
Yeah, I actually had a solo show there too on the balcony level.
Oh, okay. All right.
And Sergio was there talking about his artwork and everything. And so, until it.
Yes.
So early in the White Ripple history.
It was such a wonderful gallery. Yeah. I had my friends. I had like Ish and Flex and coming out to see the show, and several other of the Indiana friends and incredible artists. And that was just a thrill. Just a wonderful event. Solo shows are fun. I love group shows too, but there's something neat about a solo show.
I know as a photographer, I like to be in a mixed show, not just a photography only show. I think that's nice to be in a variety of things. And I also think it elevates photography to art. So
yes, definitely. Yeah. And being next to photography is always incredible too. As an artist, seeing it combined in a show. And now, as I'm doing, I'm combining it into my own artwork. So that's been fun to do that, to just explore. I don't like when I get used to my art, when it becomes a routine, like, okay, here we go again. What am I going to do this time? I need to be challenged. And that's where the different series come. And if you go to my website, you can see it's still in chronological order where I had started to where I am right now, and seeing the different series that I went through to get where I am now.
Let us know the website. We'll get it at the end of the show too, but tell us where that is.
I know I agree with you about the solo show too. There's something so powerful about seeing a body of work all together next to each other in a way that you wouldn't normally. I think it even surprises the artist depending on how it was curated and hung. They see their own work in a different way.
Yes, I agree.
And tell us your website. That's why we wanted to make sure we got it while you were talking about it.
Okay, my website is Diana. It's my name actually, which is
Right.
Diana Leviton Gondek .com. It's pretty simple to get to, and you can Google me too to find it there as well.
And we'll hit that at the end of the show. One thing I want to do as a follow-up on the COVID is, what are you looking forward to that you haven't been able to do? You know, you're all fit and everything, but what else? You're a fit artist ready to go out there, but what have you missed that you want to do now when you get, it's all clear to get out again?
Being in live shows again. I miss that. I miss having people come to my studio freely. I miss talking to my art friends, one-on-one, and when you're at a show, and it's so isolated now. We're all so isolated in our own little worlds, and it just is going to be just like this big party when we were able to, even if it's still masked, just to be together safely. It's just going to be an incredible experience.
Yes, because we really don't know what the state of theater is going to be or when that's going to be feasible again. That's been very difficult, but they've made a beautiful transition, just like visual artists using Zoom and virtual methods.
Right. So for some of these shows, the virtual shows I've been in have been so wonderfully done professionally. So, but I still think nothing beats seeing live artwork. That's the ultimate, when you can really put your face up, as you would when you go to the Art Institute. You'd want to be inches away to see those strokes. How did they do that? And it's just, you can't do that when you're on your phone. It's just not the same. But it's still keeping it out there. So.
Do you have any projects you're looking forward to doing in art, things that you haven't done that you want to get, or have you been more productive, actually creating art? You've been, sheltering in place. So has that been a creative thing? Or sometimes some of the people we've interviewed over COVID, they've kind of pulled back as an artist?
I think at different times, different things. I always like to have something I'm working on. I like to have something in the back of my mind, a series or something of that sort. And there was a new series that I started and I'm working on. And then I started thinking about the new series I kind of wanted to get into instead. So definitely still working actively. But as I said, I'm almost putting a little more of my time into marketing, just because I'm at home. I don't know who's going to see me. So just pushing it out there as much as I can and looking. Yeah, that's about it.
So what are you working on now? What painting? Or?
I've started a series I had taken lots of pictures of my studio when guests were there, and just some wonderful pictures of children's reaction to artwork and friends. And so I was thinking of continuing a series on that. We'll see where that goes. But then I've been also loving long walks and using photography with that. So I'm wondering to incorporate more nature into my work, into another series. So I'd done a larger piece, which is behind me, that was where I would go walking, this kind of secret area. So I really liked how that turned out. And so I might be doing that. I think it depends. I always kind of like to use what's going on, as I did politically when I was very upset what was going on. And now it's, where's my mind at? It's almost like, how do I feel? It's like, how do we feel during all this?
So does that relate to your color palette then? Your mood? Is that what informs?
I guess so at times. I think so. And also just to experiment and just trying different colors. I think getting bored of something and said, now what? Let's do something. Let's change this somehow. How can I change myself? To evolve. And I don't like more what I do now than what I did before. It's just, these are all different times of my life and different series that I have done.
So right now I'm in a place where I'm revisiting work from, decades ago. Does that do you have different, is your work around you generally do you revisit?
I do. Actually, even in my studio at the Joby Art Center, I have some of my earlier transparency work there with some of my more recent mixed media work. And so, people say this is all, it's 3 separate rooms at the Joby Art Center. And people, as you say, I see you in each one of these, your style. But sometimes for the not so trained eye, they go, well, how come you did this then and you're doing this now? And so it brings on a conversation. So is this all your work? Yes, it's also multiple years of artwork and different series that I've done.
Fabulous.
Now, are you ever teaching any students? Have you had students that are studying with you?
No, do my kids count? No.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I guess they could, but I mean, if you have any official students, because you've been involved in, like Northwestern and things like that. So I just wonder if that was something.
No, not actually. I will I was away from the art world, Chicago art scene per se. When I was at in Naperville doing art awareness, I was teaching children at that time. So that was again like about 6 years of doing that. And so just telling them about an art, some history and an art or an artist, and then we would do a project pertaining to that. So that definitely was a training time for me.
Would you like to teach in the future? Would that be something maybe you would, as an expanding on your art?
Possibly. I mean, I see in the future when things open up, doing even more traveling and doing shows and something of that sort. That's what I would really love doing. The Art Basels, these incredible art venues, and even to bring my artwork to different countries. I was in Busan, Korea, and I didn't make it there. My art made it there. So, but that was just what an incredible experience to be there.
Well, we'd like to thank you for being on Art in the Air, Diana Leviton Gondek, and her website is the same thing as DianaLevitonGondek.com. You can contact her, find out information about her and her art at the Zobie Art Center on 35th Street in Chicago. Diana, thank you so much for being on Art in the Air. We really appreciate you coming on the show.
Say thank you.
Oh, well, thank you both so much, Larry, Esther. This has been wonderful. It's so fun to just go rambling on about my artwork.
Well, we really appreciate it. Thank you, Diana.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're listening to Art on the Air, WVLP 103.1 FM, and on Lakeshore Public Radio 89.1 FM.
Now she's haunting me just like a melody, the only song I seem to know. Sarah, my life has changed. Sarah, I miss you so. Sarah, I did you wrong. Sarah, where did you go?
And that musical segment you just heard is from the musical Ragtime, and that's being produced by Art 4 Theater of South Bend. And we'd like to welcome the executive director, Dr. Aaron Albin, the artistic director and choreographer, Mark Albin, and one of the actors from it, Patrick Brynes. Welcome to Art on the Air to talk about the show.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Yeah, aloha, welcome.
Hello.
Well, first of all, and I know which one of you want to direct this, let's talk a little bit about your background before we talk about Art 4 Theater and then Ragtime. So, Aaron, why don't you go first? Tell us about how you got from where you were to where you are as, I know you're a teacher, conductor, pianist, vocal coach, etc. But tell us a little about your background.
Sure. Great. I grew up in a small town in Iowa. Shambach is the name, if there's any Shambach people. It's close to Clarinda.
Ought to give Iowa a try, right?
That's right. Very small. There's definitely more livestock than people down there. So grew up in Iowa, did a music ed degree, taught public high school choir. And then I went to Texas, did a master's and doctorate in orchestral conducting while I was down there. Got super excited about arts advocacy, public funding, and just kind of how do we make theater for, mass consumption. So then moved to Chicago, worked with nonprofit organization called Merit School of Music. It's an amazing organization. If you don't know it, check it out. And then got drawn to South Bend by Conn-Selmer, which is the largest American manufacturer of brass and woodwind instruments left in America. So I'm their director of marketing operations for Conn-Selmer. And then in Chicago is where I met my husband. And then we moved to South Bend. We started a professional theater company called Art 4, and we're in our 4th season.
Excellent.
So, but can we go back a bit? So, what were you like in elementary school? Did this start there? Because I teach K through 6, and I can tell from kindergarten who belongs in theater.
Oh, completely. I mean, music especially has always been my passion. Opera, musical theater. My love is with opera, actually. if truth be told. And that's where I've always viewed myself as an opera conductor. That's where I wanted to spend my studies. That's why I started picking up the piano. If you talk to my mother, I used to sneak cassette tapes of the best of Bach under my pillow so that I could play them at nighttime while I was in bed. So when I was supposed to be sleeping, I would put in my best of Bach and listen to Johann Sebastian Bach on my cassette tape.
This is straight out of a Wes Anderson movie. I love it.
I adore it. Yes.
Well, that's great. Mark, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background then?
Well, it's a lot more boring than that. I mean, how can you...
No Bach under your pillow, huh?
No Bach under my pillow, just some really bad Bach puns that happen every once in a while. I grew up in Franklin Park, which is a small suburb right outside of the city of Chicago, the youngest of 5 children. And it was really important for my parents for us to all get involved in music growing up, and was really lucky to grow up in a school district that supported the performing arts, which is why with where we're at right now with Art 4, we are really dedicated to making sure that we're providing opportunities for emerging artists. We've borrowed this saying from a colleague of ours from the Merit School of Music, saying that talent is everywhere, but opportunity is not. And I definitely had a lot of opportunity in Franklin Park that ended up starting my performing career as an actor in Chicago that I did right outside of high school. I was very fortunate. That ended up giving me some credentials to then go to another passion of mine, which was education. And I started choreographing and directing shows at the elementary level for high schools. I ran the performing arts program for the Park District of Franklin Park. I started a theater company in Northlake called Breaking Ground Theater Company, all of which really ended up providing a lot of foundational layers and backbone experience for when Aaron and I ultimately started Art 4 in South Bend, which was really to help solve this problem that we had identified, because up until the beginning of Art 4, there really wasn't a theater company in South Bend that was dedicated to paying performing artists. And after we moved there in 2015, we knew that not only did we want to try and solve that problem, but with our combined experience of performing arts education, with the work that we've done with nonprofits, with the work that we've done at starting our own performing arts companies before, that we were the people to tackle that problem. So that's really a good summation of where I'm at right now.
Very good. And then we have one of the actors from the show, Patrick Brynes. Tell us a little bit about your background and how you got from where you were to where you are.
Hey, I'm Patrick. I grew up on the south side of Chicago. I am the son of a supervisor at the Chicago 911 Center, the firefighter side, and a medical administrator. So not a whole lot of arts in my family, though they were artistic and were arts appreciators. I started out as a kid. I got picked to be the Pied Piper in the 4th grade play. Which was a time where I was otherwise a pretty lonely kid and kind of bullied a little bit. And so it just kind of turned my life around and was this burst of positivity and fun. I tried at it as a kid a little bit more, but as a kid, I didn't really deal well with rejection. Made me pretty sad. Still does as an adult, but I've made better peace with it. So I put it on pause, tried to do a couple other things. And then in high school, got cast in a production of Peter Pan. And just on a whim, like my mom was like, well, you used to do this when you were a kid. You want to give it a shot at the local high school? So I did. And at some point during rehearsal, I just kind of looked around the theater and I was like, this is it for me. I'm going to do this for the rest of my life. This is where I feel the most happy, where I feel the most at peace. I'm going to give this a shot. So I had heard another kid in my class say that he was looking at the school for Illinois State University, because that's where Steppenwolf started. And so that was good enough a reason for me. So I went there and studied acting, graduated in about 2009, and have been acting around Chicago stages ever since. Chicago's a great arts town, as you know. I've been kind of from top to bottom in terms of like low budget storefront. It's right 3 feet in front of you to some of the bigger houses in town. And actually right before this project, right before pandemic, I don't want to jump ahead too much, but I finally got a job at Steppenwolf. I was understudying production of I Am Not Your Perfect Mexican Daughter. And was slated to go on for 5 performances, and then the pandemic hit. And we were bringing a lot of high schools for the show. It was geared towards younger audiences. And so with the whole traffic of school buses into a theater, it was just like, that was the first thing to go when the pandemic hit. So we canceled, and then I did a whole lot of nothing. all of my supplementary avenues pretty much dried up overnight. And that's
Patrick, with what you described to us, so you were, it sounds like, as well as acting, did you get involved with backstage stuff like set design? And...
Not as much. I did in college, just because they try to get you to do a lot more well-rounded stuff in college. I really liked light crew. I do like, constructing artistic things, and I probably could, but I just love acting so much that I've poured almost my whole focus into it, which my mother would say was ill-advised, but I guess it worked out all right. It was mostly acting.
I had to laugh that you didn't like rejection, and so then you went into acting. So
I had to make peace with that.
Yeah, I used to tell students, I said, a professional actor will sometimes go to 30 auditions for every job they get, and that may only be for a couple of weeks. I said so, and the other advice I gave them, I says, if you really go into it, I says, you remember that your acting is your product, not you. Yeah. So rejection is not you personally. So
exactly.
And the audition you go to it may not end up that time, but that I've seen many times when I was working at the theater at the Center in Munster, where they say, you remember that person we had auditioned, let's call them. I want them for such and such a show. That happens a lot. So.
Oh yeah. And you hit the nail on the head. If you're going on 30, 40 auditions and you book one job, that's great.
Right.
That's a good track record.
Speaking about auditions, this is for Aaron or Mark. So I read that you had 550 people audition for Ragtime out from 17 states and 3 countries. So were you overwhelmed by that, or was that what you were expecting?
Yeah, super overwhelmed. So, we are a young theater company, right? We're just in our 4th season, as I mentioned. And if we have 35 to 40 people audition for a show, we are ecstatic. I am behind the scenes jumping up and down. A good note about Art4 too, we typically do smaller shows, so not like Ragtime. We typically do shows of 4, 6 people. So having 35, 40 people audition is a plenty, a pool to draw from for those smaller cast shows. But yes, we were very pleasantly happy, excited, but also overwhelmed with the amount of people that applied for this show. And even just to reach, those 17 other states. And I think it really just spoke to the need out there. And how people were looking for work and opportunities and excited about work.
Actually, that's what the pandemic has really made us a global community. And so many of my artist friends are showing all throughout the world now because the opportunities are there.
You're listening to Art on the Air, WVLP 103.1 FM, and on Lakeshore Public Radio 89.1 FM. Aaron, before we get on to Ragtime, tell us a little bit more, and Mark hit a little bit about this, but Art4, tell us about the origin of the theater, and if you're an equity and non-equity house, and just kind of your goals and everything, and then we'll explore more about the show itself.
Sure. I'll start, and then Mark, please jump in, because I know that I will leave things out. So, as Mark mentioned, he had started a company outside of Chicago before. I forgot to mention, when I was in grad school, I also started a string chamber orchestra with a colleague of mine, Hyunsuk Chang. Hyunsuk, if you're listening, how you doing? He was a fellow conductor. So we started a chamber orchestra down there for the community because we saw this high level music making going on at the University of North Texas where we were in Denton, but it wasn't really going out into the community, and I wanted to connect that bridge, and so we started a string chamber orchestra of mostly grad students, and they loved it because in academia you're mostly working on huge, Brahms symphonies or Shostakovich, all these really large works, but we were focusing on chamber repertoire. So we were these smaller works that these grad students weren't getting to work on in their academic work. So yeah, we would rotate around churches, various venues in the city, and give these free concerts of the major chamber string works. So that kind of got the bug started for starting a company, and kind of got my feet wet, and then met Mark. And as Mark mentioned, we really saw a need here in the South Bend area. So South Bend is an amazing place, by the way. If you haven't visited yet, you should check it out. But one thing that I think is unique about South Bend is there are a lot of universities and colleges in the area, and some of them have great music programs. And so there's this young talent of artists in the community and being trained in the community. And I don't want them to leave and go to Chicago. I think Chicago's great and they should visit, but we really wanted to solve this problem of how can we keep this young, thriving, trained, eager talent that is coming out of these universities and train them, give them opportunities, create a professional platform to help their careers. Not that we don't want to help veteran artists because we want to help all artists, but that was kind of the seed of it, is bridging that gap and how can we help artists make South Bend their home. And to do that, they need to be compensated. They need a living wage to do that, right? Just like we pay to have our houses painted or the oil changed in our car. High quality art deserves recognition and compensation. We are not an equity house yet, but we would love to someday be one.
Yeah, I'm sure. One of the things I always tell people is, and when we dealt with that at Theater at the Center, when I first went there in the early 90s, we were kind of a semi-pro theater. And the way we got in is using a guest artist contract. That was kind of the easiest way to go, get to a guest artist contract. Then eventually we moved up to be a Category 2 house. But yeah, there's a nice gradual way to do that. And so, Mark, do you have anything to add to that, what Aaron said?
I would also say that this idea of Art 4 really started when Aaron was in grad school. He had this vision that is now almost, I don't want to age you too much, babe, but 2 decades old, the vision of it.
Well, I finished my doctorate in 2012. So the idea was probably about 2010.
Yeah. And the idea was an organization that combines multiple art forms, visual, culinary, literary, and performing arts, which is what is at the center of our name, Art 4. So when we're looking for programming, although that's kind of become more of a sideline issue for us, it is still predominant in our decision making. And so it wasn't just about, though, creating the art, because that's beautiful and it's fantastic, but it's about changing the culture of an entire community, because as we understand as artists, we're constantly trying to validate the work that we're doing to the rest of society. That's very math and science oriented, that's very sports oriented, and trying to change the conversation so that people understand that the arts also create jobs, they drive tourism, and they fuel commerce. And in order to have a better, more sustainable city, an environment that fixes problems, like in South Bend, the school corporation and how we handle things with the school corporation, that is a big and current issue and has been since we moved there. Well, if people are wanting to stay in South Bend and their tax dollars are going towards schools, that would be helpful. Well, how do you make sure that people want to stay in South Bend? You invest in the culture. And that's what we're not trying to do. That's what we're doing. And that's at the heart of our mission to cultivate, challenge, and create. We want to cultivate professional artistic experiences for emerging young artists. We want to challenge our community with the work that we do. And we want to create community by having engaging contemporary conversation that ignites passion.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
Yes.
Thank you. I have a ragtime question. So was ragtime already in your roster of things that you wanted to do, or was it an informed choice because of the times we're in?
Ragtime was actually on the list of things we would never do because we would have never done this in a normal setting of live performances because it takes too many people. So
resources and 45, 50 member cast, huge set lighting, costumes.
Period things. Yeah, I
Enormous.
thought it was a very ambitious piece to do, but you met the challenge by doing something unique. Tell us about that.
Yeah, we decided to film it instead, which is really something that has evolved since the shutdown happened in early 2020. In April of 2020, Artforce started our Show Tune Sunday series, which was dedicated to raising funds for artists who had been financially impacted by COVID-19. And on a weekly basis, we made a music video for an artist that was nominated by the community, and we would raise funds for them and split the pot 50-50. Artforce would get 50%, the artist would get 50%. That ended up evolving. We ended up doing a fundraiser specifically for Black Lives Matter South Bend in response to the murder of George Floyd. We ended up doing a longer programming with Notre Dame Shakespeare for their Shakespeare Festival in August. And then we ended up producing 35 millimeters, a musical exhibition by Ryan Scott Oliver, which is a non-book musical. It's only 90 minutes long. It's pretty much just a series of music videos, which we knew how to do that after Show Tune Sunday. And so we were like, what do we want to do next? And Ragtime was the thing because we can have a smaller cast of people who are playing multiple roles. They don't have to physically be in the same space. And it is commenting on multiple topics that are very relevant right now, as relevant as they were when the story takes place 100 years ago.
Patrick, real quick, what do you play in Ragtime? Because you're one of the performers, or what you might play multiple roles, but tell us briefly about that.
Yeah, so I play Tata. The story of Ragtime kind of revolves around several different characters, but mainly 3 different families of very different cultures kind of thrust together at the turn of the 20th century. And I play Tata, who is a Latvian Jewish immigrant who immigrates to America for the American dream. He brings his little girl and, like the story of many immigrants, immigrates to America to make a better life for his child, to find success through his art. This is a time in history that is one of the largest Jewish immigrations in recorded history between the late 1800s and 1920s to escape European persecution, which, we all know how that turned out with World War II just a few years later. So he moves to America with the idea of the American dream and is kind of dumbfounded by how dark it can be before it can be bright. Searches for a better life.
Real quickly, adapting this from a stage production to, quote, filming it. And I know the copyright holders has been very, very open to that. Like MTI especially has been really great about licensing that. Talk about some of the challenges of doing that, because it's different, when a stage production versus, putting it onto film or video.
Well, we're definitely not able to share the same physical space in the rehearsal process. And that's a challenge when you're dealing with topics that are as so condensed and heavy as Ragtime is, because you need to have longer conversation about it. But I have to say, when you're working with professionals like Patrick, it makes the process really fluid and easy. When people come into the room and they are a creative mindset, they are problem solvers, they just know their craft inside and out, that you can just literally sometimes put them in front of the camera and say, this is the scene that we're doing, go. And it looks absolutely amazing. And people, if you don't see this, you are doing yourself a huge disservice. You must see Artforce's production of Ragtime.
And tell us how we can see that.
You can get tickets by visiting art4, like the number 4, sb.org/ Ragtime.
And we'll have a link.
And I do want to mention, if it's okay, this online musical, there's 6 performances on select dates between April 12th and April 16th and May 2nd. Sorry. They're either at 7:30 Eastern or 3 p.m. Eastern. Those are all Eastern time. It's scheduled content, so it begins at the exact time. You cannot fast forward or pause. So just let you know, prepare to view at the exact.
Okay. Well, you can find, what's your website again, one more time for our audience?
Art4, like the number, sb.org.
Okay, thank you so much. We appreciate coming on Art in the Air. That's for Ragtime in South Bend, and you can stream it. We have Aaron Albin, Mark Albin, and Patrick Brynes as part of the cast. Thank you so much for being on Art in the Air, sharing your production that people can still see.
Thank you. We're so excited for you.
Thank you.
Thanks, y'all. Thank you.
You've been listening to Art in the Air, and we'd like to thank our guests this week on WVLP 103.1 FM and Lakeshore Public Radio 89.1 FM, our weekly program covering arts and arts events throughout Northwest Indiana and beyond. Art in the Air is heard every Friday at 11 a.m. and rebroadcast Monday at 5 p.m. on WVLP. Art in the Air streams live at WVLP.org and is rebroadcast on Monday at 5 p.m. Plus is also heard on Lakeshore Public Radio, 89.1 FM every Sunday at 7 p.m., also streaming live at lakeshorepublicradio.org and is available on Lakeshore Public Radio's website as a podcast. Our spotlight interviews are also heard Wednesdays on Lakeshore Public Radio. Thanks again to Greg Kovach, WVLP station manager, and Tom Maloney, vice president of radio operations for Lakeshore Public Radio. Our theme music is by Billy Foster with a vocal by Renee Foster. Art in the Air is supported by an Indiana Arts Commission Arts Project Grant and the National Endowment for the Arts. Underwriters for Art in the Air, Walt Breidinger of Paragon Investments and Marilyn Levan, Arts Patron. Art in the Air is always looking for financial support. We'd like to thank our current supporters. If you're looking to support Art in the Air, Esther and I especially would invite you to become an underwriter of this program in particular. We have information on our website at breck.com/AOTA. You can find out support information there. So don't just be an Art on the Air listener. Become a supporter or underwriter in whatever amount you're able to do so we continue to bring you great content and this great local programming. And like I say every week, don't give till it hurts. Give till it feels good. And you'll feel so good about supporting Art on the Air. Information about Art in the Air is available at our website, breck.com/AOTA. That's Breck, BRECH.com/AOTA. That includes a complete show archive, spotlight interviews, plus our show is available on multiple podcast platforms, including NPR One. Please like us on Facebook, Art on the Air, WVLP, for information about upcoming shows and interviews. If you're interested in being a guest or send us information about your arts-related event or exhibit, please email us at aota@breck.com. That's aota@breck, BRECH.com, or contact us through our Facebook page. Your hosts were Larry Breckner and Esther Golden, and we invite you back next week for another episode of Art on the Air.
Aloha, everyone. Have a splendid week.
Express yourself through art and show the world your heart. Express yourself through art and show the world your heart. You're in the know with Esther and Larry. Art on the Air today. Stay in the know with Larry and Esther. Art on the Air our way. Express yourself through art and show the world your heart. Express yourself through art and show the world